Janine Elf with Everything Sing. Voice training steadily turned my joyful expression of singing into an assignment I could never complete. So this is my experience with having very little voice training actually in my life. Although as an adult, becoming a teacher because God gave me a gift, not only for teaching, but also for singing and understanding it. And then I just self-taught. I took a couple of months of voice lessons when I was 14 years old, but I became a successful voice teacher in my adult life. But here I am, 62, and I have finally come to a place just a few months ago where I realized that I don't want to teach the traditional way anymore. I don't want to teach singing. I want to facilitate people in exploring their own voice, their joy, the art, the craft, the love, and the expression that comes in worshiping God with our voice. And that has all been stripped away with this arbitrary standard of measuring up to something. Kind of like the medical field right now, how it has this standard of care, but somebody created that. And so everybody that goes into the hospital or to a doctor or you take your pet to a vet, they all have a standard of care now that they meet. But it's all based on something that's arbitrary that really is more about making money. And it isn't about the patient because it's used, the same model is used for everybody. So if you think of the standard of care, there's a standard of teaching that's been used for everyone for years. And so even if you have an ability to do something outside of that, somebody's going to wrangle you in because they're going to say, oh no, but that's not the technique. That's not the correct way to do that technique. And so then people get lost in that, which is really sad. But the process of singing that matters, it's the process. It's not the destination that matters. So here we are, we're teaching people that you need to get to this destination and you need to do it my way. So how in the world is anybody ever going to have any joy, right? It's like telling somebody who's painting a picture, oh no, I don't want you to paint it like that. Even though you have an idea in your head that God may have given you, and it's certainly coming from you, but then they go, oh no, I want to insert myself into your gift, and I'm going to tell you that you should do it this way so you can have this end result. Well, that's what's happened with the business of singing, that I'm resisting, and I'm saying no more. So I threw out most of my piano teaching books because I feel the same way, of course, about piano, that has been a system that has been teaching people, that has taken their freedom away from how they play piano and how they, and so it goes across the board to all of the arts. And so we put people in a box, basically. But I was reading a testimony or a story of someone who has been very successful as a teacher of teachers of singing, and she wrote a book, an amazing book called, it's The Brain Science of Teaching. I forgot what it's called, but anyway, her name's Meredith Colby. She told her story and sent it out to the teachers that have been in her course. And I was like, it was like reading my own story. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one that felt that way. We've all felt that way. We all got stuck in the trap of, oh, well, I have to do it this way to measure up. So at a young age, I was very gifted. I was winning awards without having any training. Then all of a sudden, I get older and I start having training and I start doing these different programs and getting hired for different things. And then I got to do it somebody else's way. And then I feel like, okay, I got to measure up to some standard that I still can't figure out what it is or where the destination is. And so then I lose my own creative ability, and my voice becomes restricted, it becomes pushed, it becomes everything you don't want for your voice. There's no freedom. So fear takes over because you're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid to not be accepted. You're afraid to not be loved because we measure our ability to do something correctly on love, right? So one of the things she mentioned is post-gig shame spiral. After a gig, she would go into this spiral of shame. I'm like, oh my goodness, I did that every single time I got done singing for anything. It didn't matter whether I got paid or not. It was just put myself out there. Oh, get done. That was terrible. So then I started thinking, okay, if I just receive everybody's praise, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. If I just receive it and take it to heart, that'll make it all better. Well, it was nice. It did help a little bit. It did make me feel good in the moment. But then I still was left with, oh, but I didn't do that right. I didn't do that right. And then technique became more and more important. And then practicing and then preparing. And then I would be afraid if I didn't spend enough time practicing and preparing that I was not going to do well. So what's happened is God has shown me where fear has been directing my entire life. I have been so caught up in the spirit of fear that it has taken the joy and the love of singing away from me and all other things really in my life. I mean, it took the joy right out of my life. I was having so much fear. So I started not wanting to sing anymore. I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to sing. I just constantly felt like a failure. There was no way for me to measure how I was doing because that's what we think. If we can measure how we do, then that gives us validation. Well, you can't measure singing, and you can't even measure teaching necessarily. But if I trust God and I know He is the one who gave me the gift and I allow Him to work through me, then there's so much joy in that because God loves me and I will never fail Him. As long as I'm obedient to use the gifts He has given me and I'm in process, that's success. But I don't even need to succeed. God just says, rest in me. Allow me to guide you. Follow me. He wants our heart, our soul, our mind, our body. We give Him praise. He'll give us what we need. He gives us our gifts. But this world wants to strip it away, wants us to feel bad, wants us to feel shame. I was convinced at a young age that my singing for joy and connection was no longer important. It was to measure up to someone else's arbitrary standard. And that took the spontaneous validation from adults that I needed in my life at that time, my parents or someone else that would know that just loving me in that process was what I needed. Because they're the ones that show God to us, right? Our parents are what we have as a child. And we need that from them. So then we turn to people giving us applause or somebody throwing us some crumbs, saying, hey, that was really good. We loved it. Or, well, that was so-so. Or you don't win an award, or you don't win a role, or you don't get a solo. Oh, yeah, I didn't measure up. I didn't do good. That didn't happen to me as a kid. That happened to me as an adult. And when it happened the first time, after always winning everything, I always did. When I finally got rejected as an adult and did not place, I didn't get an award. I spiraled down. I thought, okay, I'm not any good anymore. I got to figure this out. And so then I was just always striving. And this is what I'm resisting for everyone that has taken voice lessons. I feel bad feel like I failed my students because I pushed them, even though I was more loving than probably anyone else they could have ever encountered, because I was constant. I told them, I'm not going to tell you when you do it wrong because I don't want you to focus on that. I would tell them, I'm going to tell you when you did it right. I'm going to say, yes, keep going, so that they would focus on that. But still, I was telling them that I'm the one who has the standard of what's right or what's good or what's the goal is, right? The destination, rather than helping them understand that it's just this process. This process is beautiful. You don't have to. And then the parents put all the pressure on the kids, oh yeah, you got to practice. So what do they need to practice? Just sing. Sometimes I would say that. Just to have them sing. So then my last final assignment that I had for my students was sing a song a day, hum a song a day, I mean. So sing or hum a song every day. One song a day, that's your assignment. I didn't tell them necessarily how they needed to do it, except if they hummed, that it just needed to feel really buzzy and vibrational in their body. But other than that, I didn't want to give them too many parameters. And that was my last attempt at trying to take the pressure off. And yet I still didn't quite understand where I was heading with that. But when God took the fear away from me, it was such an incredible aha about my singing. Because up to that point, I didn't want to do any gigs. I didn't want to gig anymore. I didn't want to teach anymore. I didn't want to gig. I didn't want to lead worship in a church. I didn't want to solo. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sing for myself because I was just so afraid of criticism. And what happened that's really beautiful is that when I went to do my first gig after this fear just is gone, I just had fun. I was like, oh, this is really fun. And I was just playing with my voice and just thanking God for the freedom in my spirit and that I had joy and I could sing what I sing and I don't have to worry about whether or not the words are accepted or if the style's accepted or if I'm doing it correctly or any of those things. I mean, there was no restriction on me. I was just sharing my gift. And for the first time ever, I've had no fear, no nerves. Here I was, this was in the summer when I was 61 years old, finally, no fear, no nerves. Wow, that's pretty darn amazing. And then I just went and did a memorial service last weekend, which was about 5 months after that time when I did the first gig where I had no fear. And I wasn't even thinking about it, got done, and Andy and I were talking about the event, and I realized, I said to him, I don't ever have any nerves anymore. I didn't even think about it. I had fun. I enjoyed it. I don't even think anybody recorded it, but I didn't really care either way because it's not like that's not going to be the last time I'm going to feel that way, because every time it's going to be that way, because it's all God. I used to think if I just give it to God, then I won't have any fear. But that wasn't where the fear was coming from, because I could trust that he gave me the gift, but the fear was much deeper. And so I still struggled and I still had anxiety around getting up and singing in front of people. Now I just get up, play with my voice. Sometimes I'll be singing and I'm listening and like, oh yeah, that's, hey, let's do a little of this there and a little of that there. And I know techniques, so I know how to pull in different tools, to create a certain sound, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is the heart. And the joy in the heart, that comes through. People feel it. They hear it in our voice. We think we can hide. We can't hide. So if you want your audience to feel joy, you want your audience to understand the words you're singing, because your words matter. They matter huge if you're going to sing for people. So sing them like you mean them. Think about the words. Don't make it about the performance. Don't make it about even delivering it well. If you have that skill, great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. That's where I'm at a point where I just want people to just be able to sing and sing for the joy and the connection of it. It's so fun when we can sing together. I got to sing with Dean Greve doing a duet for this memorial service for his stepmom. And he was so nervous. He was shaking, and I felt bad, and I wanted to help relieve him of his performance anxiety, but I couldn't do that in the moment. But he did really enjoy connecting, and he did rely on me, which was fine. But there were great moments, and then there were moments where he got lost and he couldn't see his words, and man, have I done that many times. And I was also really good at making up words in the moment. Sometimes they were better than the ones that were actually written for me to sing. So under pressure, I could be pretty creative. And anyway, it's because I wasn't overthinking it. It's when we overthink. And that's the problem with singing now. People overthink it. They shouldn't even be thinking about, just do it. Just feel it. Just enjoy it. It's the process that matters. Because in the process, you'll feel joy. You'll connect. Don't worry about the destination. The world has been telling us that. Every church tells its worship teams, you got to do this correctly. Every church does that. No, it's wrong. So I think for me, I have a new message, and I'm going to get it out there. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this new direction. Thank you for Meredith Colby sending her story of her journey as a singer and what happened to her, and how my journey is so similar. And all the feelings she had, I share those completely. So if we share those as professionals, because we've been paid, and because we've been trained, then can you imagine those that are not professionals? I can. God gave us a voice. God gave us a song in our heart, and He wants us to share that, because there is nothing more beautiful or vulnerable and more joyful than to hear someone sing from their heart. It is the most beautiful thing. When people start trying to structure it and control it, it loses its beauty. And that's what's happened in this world. And that's the journey I'm on, is to teach people to bring joy and beauty back to singing. Happy singing. Hey, if you're really getting something out of this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, or anyone that you think would benefit from hearing it. And if you could leave a 5-star rating, that would be awesome. You can spread the word far and wide and have everybody singing with us. Okay, thanks so much for joining me.